I am ready to go here.
Wait, what's this?
I'm ready to go.
You're ready to go.
Built
You think
up.
you
Good to go.
got everything you need on that rifle?
Yeah, what do you got going on here? You got the diaper on the front. You bring wipes to that thing or what?
I got everything I need, Aaron.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, I am sure about that.
All right, let's talk about the top 5 things that you may have forgotten on your AR-15 build.
Welcome back, everybody. Clint today with Classic Firearms. We've got Aaron back with us.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine. You asking them or you asking me?
I'm asking everybody. How's everybody doing today? I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Everybody, let Aaron know how you're doing down in the comment section, okay? And while you're doing that, go ahead and think about some things on your AR-15 that you may have forgotten about. You're probably wondering to yourself, what are you talking about? Did I forget to make sure that it's clear? Did I forget to make sure I've got enough ammo? Or did you forget about maybe potentially having a flared magwell to help you get a little bit smoother reloads in? I don't know, maybe you did. So let's talk about those top 5 accessories for your AR-15 that you may have forgotten about. Starting with the magwell. And what we've got on this gun over here is just that. Aaron, why might a flared magwell be, I don't know, something you might not want to overlook?
So a lot of things that happen and people don't take into consideration when this happens is you actually utilize the gun for what it's made for. You actually get into a firefight. God forbid that ever happens. Hopefully it doesn't. But a couple of things that disappear in the middle of these firefights are dexterity. Goes right out the window. So simple things like the way we sit here and do this nice and comfortably. Yeah. That all disappears when you have somebody fighting you. You're firing rounds. You're trying to focus on something, or just fear takes over your body, and then we're doing all this, and meanwhile, you want to start getting rounds down range.
Or if you can't see because, well, let's say you're in complete darkness.
That could be another thing.
Yep, running night vision, things like that.
Very true.
So I like that you point out, though, motor skills. Those fine motor skills, that dexterity goes out the window.
Right.
And this is why we preach all the time muscle memory and dry fire, so that way you can sit there, without looking, all that, just in and out all the time, so you don't have to worry about it, right? And I don't have any extra flared magwells on my M4 or anything like that, or flared magwells, but I don't have any extra flaring taking place other than what's naturally already built into the gun itself. Right. Some more than others, but on this one, that one's integrated largely, and that's an ADM lower, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so
it just makes it a lot easier, and even if you're off a little bit, it's still going to guide you home and take to where you have to go. And I think we actually have one right over there.
Oh, yeah.
It actually has a little bit more.
Driven Arms Co.
There it is.
Yeah, so. Driven Arms Co. on the EPC9 by Aero Precision. This is obviously a nice feature because you can tell it adds a little bit more material to the overall design of the pistol, but again, in those situations where you need to be a little bit quicker, where you might be losing that dexterity, as Aaron has mentioned, or your fine motor skills are going out the window, or you can't see, it's nice to have something there to kind of guide you home.
Right.
And just to go ahead and let you guys know, this list is in no particular order of one that's over a greater priority than the other. It's just some things that you might want to take a look at. Now, Sylvan Arms also is that we carry has flared magwell options. There's a lot that you can just kind of look up and see. There's some too that like have a, when I bought my first AR, I had this on mine and then I got rid of it after I realized it's not cool. It's the pistol grip flared magwell thing, whatever. Right. I realized it was actually hindering me more than helping me.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't know if it was just the quality. So this is the other thing I want to talk about is quality of the products that you get that go on the guns that might be, you might be using to save your life. I noticed that I had more issues getting mags to go in than actually it helping me.
Yeah, definitely want to hinder that.
No, that's not a good idea. No. So that $15 piece came right off.
Makes sense.
So there you have it. Make sure you're getting quality parts. Flared magwells are number 5, and let's talk about our number 4. For our next accessory that you may have forgotten about, something that I learned the hard way when it came down to a low light course that was being led by Kyle Lamb thanks to Surefire, was having a constant on option for my light. And at least being able to activate it like through a push button tail cap that you see right back here. That makes life a lot easier. Right. Whenever you're shooting around barriers or you're in different shooting positions where you might not be in that traditional stance and activating all the controls that might be set up ergonomically for when, shit hasn't hit the fan.
Right.
And that's what I learned on my Mark 18, but on my M4A1 that I have over here, what I've got set up are mod buttons with the Driven Arms Code dangler, which is set up again, nice and pretty when things are good.
Right.
But if things go bad, how do I activate my light? Because this is my light button, this is my laser button, and then I have a separate light button with the push button tail cap right back here. Now granted, due to the cable management and things like that, and just how the actual tail cap lines up after I get it tightened down, it's not in the most perfect position.
Right.
But I've got it.
Yeah.
And if need be, yes, I can fold this down to the side. Now I can get to it a lot easier here, and I can keep that downrange and good. But I also like having it kind of in this position right here. That's just where I prefer to have it. But anyway, I can still get to it, which is, again, is something really nice. Pressure pads are awesome, but again, if I'm shooting, way down here doing some weird stuff, or if I'm doing it with my non-dominant hand, that's when things get really weird, and now I need to go ahead and activate this light. I can come over if I wanted to, but now I'm shooting in front of my optic.
Yeah, I see. That could definitely hinder you.
Yeah, it can hinder me.
Takes away the focus from shooting and all the above also.
Yeah, and I want to make sure it's easy enough to get to, so it's something I'm still working on this guy. I might just honestly take a wrench and just tighten the crap out of it and call it a day. But at the end of it all, I want a push button tail cap.
Okay.
And there are other options out there as well, like for instance, what we've got now with Cloud Defensive. It comes with the push button, which is pretty nice right back here, but also a nice large button to get back to. That's kind of like your traditional flashlight button, right at the tail cap of the light itself, which is pretty nice. So again, depending on how you have it set up, is going to determine what's going to work best for you. Surefire again back here with the pressure pad that we have here. It has a momentary on, utilizing just the pad, and then a constant on with the button that you see right here. See, there you go. How about that? That's pretty nice. And of course, this one does not have the tail cap, because this is ultimately in a pretty good position to get to ambidextrously. You can get to that pretty much everywhere. And if you need to get into a shooting position that's not going to allow you to hold down the pressure pad, you still have that to get to, and you can do whatever you got to do, which is a nice feature. And then very similarly, but with the pressure pad at a good 12 o'clock position, that makes it nice and easy to get to. So there are different options out there, but something that I didn't realize I really needed was a constant on option for my flashlight when shooting in low light. So that's something I would recommend. Either one of those options, but personally, it was a push button tail cap that I found that I needed.
Yeah, I think it comes down to comfort also. Just whatever you're comfortable with. Again, the main thing is knowing your setup, knowing where everything is on your gun. As again, like we talked about before, dexterity goes out the window. So if you don't know your setup and this little button is your on switch, you may not be able to even get your finger on that, and you may need something bigger with more surface on it. So
right. Good argument for the Cloud Defensive there. So things to take into consideration, brought to yours truly by Aaron. Let's talk about our next accessory that you may have forgotten about. Question.
Shoot.
Good, because that's the pun that I was looking for here.
Gotcha.
Hey, you've shot a lot of rounds out of one rifle at one time before, right?
Correct.
Cool. What happens?
Gets a little warm, you could say toasty, hot.
Gets a little toasty, gets a little hot, and that's usually what happens at the rail, right?
Correct.
Now, if you're shooting with a silencer, what happens?
It gets even hotter.
It gets even hotter. So maybe being able to manage that heat would be a really cool thing. Let's say we don't even talk about the suppressors just yet.
Okay.
But if you guys have ever taken a class with a higher round count, anything like that, where you might be engaging different targets at the different lengths or distances, whatever it is, lots of rounds in a short period of time, you're going to notice your rail is going to get warm. There is metal on metal contact at very high speeds happening, friction happening, small explosions happening, hot gases being put throughout this barrel that are going to ultimately heat up, and well, they will eventually burn your hand if you're not careful, and if you've got like a little bit thinner rail, something like that, right? So being able to manage that and have something as simple as protectors, hand guards, or even heat wraps is something that we would advocate for. Ryan, what do you have on your gun again?
That's a Lunar Concepts heat wrap.
Lunar Concepts Hot Pocket. Lunar Concepts Hot Pocket. Kind of want a snack now. Lunar Concepts Hot Pocket, which is a great thing to have because, again, it's another layer added to block that heat from getting to your skin. What also helps? Gloves. All right, now let's go beyond that. What about high round counts through a silencer?
Yes, also, it definitely gets extremely hot. Not only the suppressor itself, but the rail will, put out extreme amounts of heat. Without this on there, you're definitely gonna have to let that thing cool down for a minute before you get back up and moving.
What I want to ask is, have you taken classes, courses, high round count drills, whatever, with a silencer?
Yes.
Rifle to pistol transition?
Yes.
You got burns on your inner leg?
100%.
Oh yeah. And what might help with that is something as simple as a heat wrap or something like a suppressor cover. And that's what I've got here. You guys may have seen our video when we covered the guns from Extraction 2. I talked about the suppressor cover on there and shouted out Liberty's Defense. Well, look what I have here. This is a Liberty's Defense suppressor cover, which apparently is probably one of the best covers in the market. We will be testing that. There are definitely a lot of covers out there, but you will see them start to melt even. You'll start to see them even slide off the can, things like that, so on and so forth. But we plan on torture testing this guy, seeing what it can do. A firefighter buddy of mine saw this and said, hey, that's the same material that my jacket's made out of. But apparently there's actually integrated Kevlar and meteorite.
I heard about the
Yeah.
meteor aspect of it.
And when you see the price of it, you're like, yeah, I can believe that. But at the same time, if you don't want this to go anywhere, you want your suppressor to stay nice and wrapped. And whenever you go to drop this to switch to your pistol or whatever, it comes down. For me, it'll probably hit about my outer knee or something like that. Or if I toss it behind me, now all of a sudden it's going to be hitting the back of my leg.
Right.
Yes, I have burned the crap out of my calf before.
It's like riding a motorcycle.
Yes. And so it's like, okay, having a suppressor cover helps. And even though just the tip of my Huxworks here is showing, I can tell you that that is enough. That's actually, there's enough material of the suppressor cover. You're trying real hard, aren't you?
I'm really trying.
Yep. The suppressor cover is covering enough to where, from what I've dealt with so far, it's enough material that's going to be blocking the meat, right? And keeping that.
Keep the tip away from it.
It keeps the tip away from it.
Makes sense.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
So keep that in mind. Maybe a suppressor cover, maybe a rail cover to keep that heat down. Because again, if you've taken those courses with those high round counts, stuff gets hot, all right? And when things get hot, you want to protect the
tip.
I'm trying way too hard now. Anyway, let's talk about our next excessive.
It's way too much tip going on.
So you brought up a good point about having something to be able to brace up against. Tell us about it.
So a lot of things we overlook are when either we're shooting around barriers, shooting around doors, whatever it may be, especially if we're talking about home defense scenarios, that you're pie in a corner, and a lot of times things happen. You get injured, so on and so forth. You may need something for support purposes to get your shots on target. A lot of people overlook the barrier support of either an angle grip or whatever it may be on your rifle. So that's definitely something that you should look into, the addition on there.
Right, and that's something else, I mean, from the same training with Kyle Lamb, because we were shooting through the Viking Tactics barriers, and he said, yeah, but that would be kind of nice to have right now. Of course, you don't want to rest the muzzle or anything like that on the barrier because that will throw your shot greatly, especially if you're shooting out to different distances.
Right.
And you'll notice on, again, Ryan's rifle here, not only do we have a BCM vertical grip, but we've also got this little hand stop right up here, which is it works two ways, right? This is a really nice thing to kind of keep you in that high stress situation from going further out than what you should be going out on your gun, because you got hot suppressor, you got things happening, you got violent things happening down here.
Ventilate your hand.
Right, and then on top of that, on the front side of this, you can brace this up against whatever and get those shots, right? Again, if I'm shooting at an upward angle or anything like that, you've also got different devices or attachments you can use outside of that. Like, I don't know, man, this seems like that was appropriately placed there. We all know about bipods and how easy those are to use.
Right.
But let's say you need to maintain a little bit lower profile, or you don't even have time to get that bipod down. Jam that on there, and now all of a sudden you've got a much more stable shooting position, right?
And again, you don't know where it's going to happen.
Now I
where
can
the
see through
shooting's
the
gonna get in place. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. So, and now you're pretty much all set there.
Yep. Hood on a car, door,
Anything.
whatever it may be. Yeah.
And you'll notice a lot of competition rifles too. They actually have them like integrated in the rail where they're a little bit more sharp.
Right.
And that is because, well, a lot of the barriers that they're shooting through are wood, and you can get a nice stab in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess technically you could run a bayonet. Even though it is attached to the barrel, so probably wouldn't be a good idea, but it's better than nothing, I guess. I don't know. Maybe not, actually, if it throws your shot too far. Just play that one by ear. But anyway, something like a bipod could be used, especially on a free-floated rail where it's not making any contact to the barrel whatsoever. You can put as much pressure as you want on there. So, me, personally, I've just got the Dano Defense vertical grip. I have used that to brace up against stuff all the time. And if I didn't have the suppressor or anything like that, or the suppressor cover, the rail actually does a pretty good job at getting into that position and locking in as well. But right here, again, against a free-floated rail, I've got this where I can push up against there and get really really fast volumes of rounds downrange accurately, which is a nice thing to have.
Stability is definitely a good thing.
So a barrier rest, barrier block, whatever you want to call it, something to take into consideration as well. You know what I've always said, kind of like talking about with the push button tail cap.
Okay.
You know, it's the entire idea of one is none, two is one, right?
Okay.
So if you don't have maybe iron sights or a backup sight, then you might not have a sight at all if your batteries die or if your optic breaks. And so having something like an offset, I believe, is a pretty important thing, right? And what I've got on my rifle is the T-Rex arms mount for a Trijicon RMR. The RMR is a durable little red dot. And on top of that, though, I've already got a very durable LPVO on there, 1:8 first focal plane Trijicon VCOG. Again, this is an absolute tank of a rifle for a 5.56 gun. There's a lot happening here. It's heavy, I get it, but I love it, so I'm not mad about it, all right? But I love the idea of being able to keep this at a constant maybe 4 or 5 power and increase that magnification when needed. But if let's say I'm engaging to distance, and then all of a sudden I need to come into cover or whatever else, and now all of a sudden I've gone from a 400-yard target to a 15-foot target.
Right.
Something very easily to do is to go from magnified to non-magnified red dot right there. And now all of a sudden I have this, let's say, zeroed at 25 yards, this zeroed at 100 yards. Right. Now all of a sudden everything I have to think about when using this magnified optic, if I'm going to use like the bend and aiming concept by keeping both eyes open and all that type of stuff, I don't have to think as much. The only thing I have to think about is remembering to do, oh, there it is. And it becomes so natural to pick up that it's not, and this is why I prefer is truly ambidextrous, where I can shoot with my left eye here, but I'm really having to rotate over and do some weird stuff, right? This is truly a more, somebody's got freaking long arms. Anyway, this is truly a more ambidextrous option, but I lose that cheek weld. And it's something it's not as easy to pick up immediately versus I don't lose my cheek weld. It's actually rotating into my cheek and it's a little bit more stable. That's why I prefer a 45 degree. But again, I get it. It's set up totally for a right-hand dominant shooter. But there's also different options out there that you can use. So there's that. Again, on our M110A1 clone, wonder why we have this built out the way we do. We've got offset iron sights, just like the M110A1.
Right.
Because this is our A1 clone. So again, having those backup sights just in case your magnified optic or anything like that goes down, again, I think is a good thing, and why I prefer a 45-degree offset, we've already talked about. What's your preference? Top mount, 45?
I've got to go with the 45, honestly. I like the idea of just piggybacking off of everything you said. Just because, again, you get to this position where, let's say you don't have that offset, and you're here, you're taking your longer shots, and then you're like, oh shit, excuse me, oh crap. There's a target right in front of me, I've got to take care of this now. So now your brain, just for that millisecond even if it is, that you have to pause, rethink, reassess, how do I deal with this threat compared to you're 45, boom, engage. So I've got to agree with you on that.
Yep, and again, that's why I like my setup so much, right? So guys, we've talked about 5 different accessories that you may have forgotten about or overlooked when it came to your AR build. And of course, we've talked about some of the first things that you should add or replace on your AR. We've covered that in a video before, so check that out. One of the first things that I always recommend is a light and a good sling, right? So let us know what you guys think you prefer on your rifles, and are any of the things we talked about today something that you overlooked and something that you are looking to add to your next build, or your already shit has hit the fan rifle, or whatever else it might be. Let us know down in the comments section, and if you'd like to see us, I'm not gonna say torture test because I'm not gonna be breaking anything on my rifle intentionally, but maybe that rifle. But I will say this, let us know if you'd like to see any type of testing, practical application, practical use of some of the stuff we've talked about today, whether it be night vision incorporated, different variations of distance and those targets and how to effectively engage those going from magnified to non-magnified. We've covered this in previous videos too, but maybe it's time for an update because, well, methods have changed, technology has changed, and maybe some of the different parts that we were using have changed. So let us know, guys. But with that being said, anything else you can think of? I think we covered most of it.
I think we got it.